Hello and welcome to the Elsa Kurt Show. I'm Elsa Kurt, and I want to take a moment before I have my guest come on and just talk about how grateful I am to be able to do what I do and talk to really just the most amazing people. And I'm talking about our first responders and the things that they do and the things that they're willing to do, and not even just in the line of duty, not even under the umbrella of their job or service or any of those things. So many of our first responders, when their career is done, when they've retired, many of them that first responder spirit stays with them. It's really inherent to who they are. And so many of them continue their life of service after the job, after they've given and sacrificed so much. They still feel compelled to give and do more. And I think there is just no greater gift than someone like that. And our next guest is another example of that. He is a firefighter, retired firefighter, and he is a advocate for first responders with PTSD. And he does a lot of really, really great things out in the universe for the law enforcement and first responder community. And I'm really looking forward to having him come on. And he is just another great example of the many, many men and women out there that go above and beyond for not only their communities, but for their peers. And I think that is really, really significant and important for other first responders to hear, particularly ones who are struggling or know of someone who is struggling on the job because of the stigma of mental health, addressing mental health. Many of them will not talk. So, and I've said before, it's very hard to get someone who's on the job to come on the show and talk about these issues. And, this is something, I hate to use these terms like normalize, but we do, this is a case where it's actually genuine and really meant that we do need to normalize mental health awareness and support for our first responders. And people like my next guest, Keith Hanks, are doing exactly that. They are normalizing mental health awareness and support for our first responders. So we'll have him on just after this. As promised, I have Keith Hanks on with me. How are you today, Keith?
I'm good, Elsa. How are you?
I am doing very well. I'm really appreciative that you're sharing some of your time with me and this show to share your not only your story, but some really valuable information and good stuff to help our first responders out there. So first off, let me get a little bit of your backstory. Let's tell everybody about you. Give me your story.
Sure. Long story, extremely abridged. I grew up in a firefighting and military family. Both my grandfathers were sergeants in World War II. My family was kind of very disciplined, kind of emotionless, I guess, from that sort of background. So I like to joke with people I was potty trained at gunpoint. Which is kind of a joke, but it is what it is. So from a pretty young age, I knew I was going to be a firefighter. I knew to some degree it was going to be a major part of my adult life. And so I actually got into the fire service when I was still a senior in high school, 2 days after my 18th birthday. And I went from being a call guy, volunteer, whatever you want to call it, to doing shift work, to working full time in both the firehouse and in private EMS. And I did that for 21 years. And I worked as both a field training officer for the EMS side of things, and then as a formal training officer for the fire department. And I really enjoyed my career. It was very, there was a lot of great moments for sure. But as many people know, there's a lot of stress with the job. And back when I got on in 96, there wasn't a lot of attention to mental wellness or how we deal with the job short of drinking a beer or smoking butts, whatnot. So I ended up going on medical in 2017 due to PTSD, a very severe form of complex PTSD. And sort of since then, I've kind of become an advocate for mental wellness and breaking down the stigma and just kind of telling it how it is and being transparent and not really holding back or pulling punches. And it's kind of gone from doing social media posts and starting groups to sort of writing a book, working with different organizations, running peer support groups, and even filming a documentary. So it's that's kind of long and short, without any major details, my life in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's perfect. I think it's important for everyone to kind of get an idea of, who you are and where you've been and where you're coming from. And I'm always like kind of awed by generational first responders. Like I always think it's so cool from the bystander perspective, but that is quite a different lifestyle than the normal. You grow up different, you're hardwired differently. And I would think, and I'm going to guess that I hate to make assumptions, but here I am doing it, that you were raised old school. I mean, you talked a little bit about, mental health awareness, mental health support. You go have a beer with the guys, and you shoot the shit and you don't talk about the bad stuff. Or if you do, you joke about it. You use that gallows humor, right?
Yeah.
You don't typically ever get deep. You just don't go there. And it's for lots of reasons. Coming from a family of first responders, of firefighters, and I hope you don't mind my asking, what do they think about you being as vocal as you are about it? Were they supportive? Were they telling you, oh, don't do that, it's like the kiss of death? What was the response?
So before I actually started being so vocal in a supportive sort of break down the stigma way, I actually had a major falling out with my family because of my mental health and largely because I showed weakness, I guess, in their mind. So I guess their opinion would be, don't do it. The impression was, we don't talk about that. And, as an adult, as a kid, when you go through things and you see a family, the way they deal with the trauma of the job and, what they used to call shell shock or battle fatigue, they dealt with it in ways that we now know aren't healthy, but as a kid, it doesn't register. And so as an adult, when I started realizing, for generations, for years, what my family was doing, to deal with or cope with their traumas. And I finally decided to not do it that way. It was like breaking tradition, right? Mm-hmm. And, the military and the first responder, especially the firefighter world, is full of traditions that aren't very helpful. And that was one of them. And so they don't really support it. They're not nearly as vocal, about this stuff.
Yeah, and I understand that. I understand it, the why of it, and it is because it's so ingrained to not justifying it, not okaying it, but certainly understanding it, right? That it is so ingrained that you just buck up and shut up, basically, right?
Suck it up.
Yeah. Listen, I was raised in a German family, and that's our natural attitude, anyhow. You calm down, toughen up, you're fine, get over it. And, so I understand the mentality to a pretty large degree, actually, and I'm also guilty of being like that. And I've had family members go, "Whoa, easy, killer, lighten up, okay? Let people have feelings." But in that world, that is the dominant behavior and coping mechanism. I mean, we all know all of us in the first responder family know the coping mechanisms, for years and years and years is excess, whether it's alcohol or other vices, and denial and all of those things. So it's really such an incredible time, I think, right now to meet people like you. It's incredible for me to meet people like you who are just saying, no more. We're not going to be quiet. We're not going to let other people suffer. I'm not going to suffer in silence anymore. And I think that is so powerful and impactful for your peers, for people around you who are locked in that cycle, and to hear somebody like yourself, who's, been the whole route, stand up and say, it doesn't have to be like this. And I think
Right.
that's amazing. Now you've become a PTSD advocate, right? I
Mhm.
mean, tell me a little bit about the types of things that you do these days.
So it all kind of started when I got diagnosed in 2015. I was still on the job. I was doing both fire and private EMS. And I was like, no one's really talking about this. And so I just started making posts, just kind of breaking down that stigma, even if it was just one post a week. And then in 2016, I started a group specifically for veterans and first responders called PTSD Awareness for First Responders and Veterans. And it sort of took off, you know what I mean? And now we're international. We have like 3,500 members, which is, conservative. And it just became one of these things where people, both on my own page and in the groups I started running and moderating, it became a place to just like let it out, just to be like, hey, we're human. We may be first responders or combat vets or whatever it is, but we're human beings first, and we experience things. And for decades, generations, we've been told you're not allowed to or not told how to. Here's the place to do it, and it sort of just took off. Where, with advocating, it just became something I do numerous times a day on different platforms and in different groups, and it sort of spiraled into doing podcasts and then public speaking, and it just, every time I talk about it, it makes me feel good, even though sometimes it can be really powerful stuff. It can even be dark at times. But knowing that others are seeing me heal publicly, knowing for me that they're going to be able to maybe heal in a private way, is really why a lot of us who do this, who are so vocal on social media, why we do it. Because it's like, we're burying ourselves in our soul and being as transparent and vulnerable as we can, so others don't have to go to that extreme to just be able to get some healing.
That's incredible. And it's just, it awes me. It truly does. And I think of the people who are sitting in silence and listening to you and others like you who are sharing your stories and sharing those burdens, like you said, so that they don't necessarily have to do it so publicly, but that they know that they're not alone and that they are understood. And I think that is so important, because, and I've talked about this before, but the problem, and I certainly would never discourage anyone, we're talking first responders specifically, anyone in general, but specifically, of course, certainly would never discourage them from going to therapy or any of those things. But it's quite a different thing when you get to speak to someone who truly understands, who's been where you are and knows what you're going through, rather than somebody basically telling you, well, explain it to me. I don't understand, because you don't, you're ready to share, but you also don't want to have to explain how you feel, right? I mean, it's hard enough as it is. And, to have people who can just say, yeah, I understand exactly where you're coming from, I think is one of the incredible gift that you are giving to your peers, really. Any surprises along the way? Has any of this process surprised you at all?
In the beginning, when I first started getting help, I was like, oh, cool. I'm getting properly diagnosed with what's wrong with me, quote unquote, what's wrong with me. And, everything's going to be peachy. I'm going to live my better life. I'm going to be able to continue down, my career. And that is not what happened. And that was, for me, healing wise and learning resiliency and everything. That was the biggest surprise. I honestly thought there was a magic pill that I was going to take and everything was going to be better. My relationship was going to be better, both romantic and with my kids and everything, job, everything. And that's not how it works. And that really caught me off guard, and it catches a lot of people off guard, and it can be very discouraging.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, we live in a society where everything is quick fix, that, a pill is supposed to fix everything, because that's what those commercials keep telling us. Just take this and you'll be fine. And of course, that's not the case. They're just really bad Band-Aids. And of course, there was the self-medicating and all that. And all of the traditional therapies, and I, use air quotes when I say that, going back to years prior, before we started becoming so aware and vocally aware of mental health support for law enforcement and first responders and firefighters, was, they would prescribe something. Oh, you're feeling depressed, you feel sad, here, just take this antidepressant and, and go on. Just don't say anything about it. Just take this and you'll be fine. And, more harm than good, obviously, because here we are looking for alternative ways to better the lives. Yep. Tell me about, so, and I've had this conversation before as well, and I'd love your insight on it. You can't possibly train for trauma. I mean, you can do simulated stuff all day long, right? But the real experiences, the real sights and things that you have to see and do, you just can't compare the two. Is there any way in training that they can better prepare our first responders? Or is it a matter of post-treatment as such, or on-the-job treatment as far as therapies and things like that?
I think the biggest thing is we got to change. So the first responder mentality is always reactive, right? We react. It's our job. We react to a situation, and we typically react very well at getting the job done and performing what we need to do. The issue is with mental health, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So we need to stop being reactive and being proactive. And so I guess to answer the question with training, yeah, there is training that can be done. It's having these conversations before, which most departments have already experienced bad calls, but before that call comes up for that person or that shift or whatever it is, having these conversations, hey guys, when this happens, we're going to talk about it, and streamlining these critical incident stress meetings, where, people are feeling supported, where it's not like, back when I got on, one of the first critical incident stress debriefings they had, no one wanted to talk. And within 5 minutes, we were eating coffee or drinking coffee and eating donuts in the back of the room, and nobody talked about it. And that used to be the way it was. And we need to stop that mentality. It's gonna affect us somehow. Absolutely. Whether we acknowledge it or we're just bringing it home, it's going to affect us or our family.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but here's my opinion about first responders. The assumption of outsiders is that they're, stone-faced, tough, strong. Of course they're strong, but, emotionless, all of the things, that you imagine. But to me, the reality is you're actually dealing with the most compassionate feeling people probably on the planet. Because, the majority of first responders join and take on this job because their need to help others. So you can't possibly tell me that that's somebody without a heart or without any feelings or anything. I think it is an abundance of, and, so to me, that's kind of the irony. You're telling people who feel so deeply and more profoundly than the average person to not feel. Yep. Just go do and not feel. And that's insane. It's insane. And you're so right that needs to change, basically effective immediately.
It does. One of the things I always tell people, when I talk to guys and gals still on the job, they're like, oh, I hate people. And it's like, I look right at them like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't keep doing this job if you hated people. You're going out and you're sacrificing so much of your life for a total stranger you'll probably never see again, or you'll see 6 more times that week, whatever it is, and you'll keep doing it because you do care.
Yeah.
And it's okay to care. It's good because we need more people who care.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That is so true. And, just all the more reason why I have such a deep, profound respect and admiration. Admiration for you guys. Yeah, it's just incredible. Now, take me into your journey through writing your book, because that's a huge step. And is that something you would have ever imagined yourself doing?
No, I actually got through most of high school on Cliff Note books. And I don't think I read a book in high school. And then, when I got to college, I got by as well as I could without having to do much writing. So when I started journaling is what it really was. When I started on my journey in 2015, it was weird. It just started like daily notes. And the next thing I knew, I was writing chapters on different parts of my life. And then about 2 years ago, I looked down on my Word document. I was at like almost 600 pages. I was like, ooh, okay, there's a lot of stuff, and it's weird because I share a lot. I don't really, I'll tell anyone anything. And when I was writing, I realized as I started talking about some of the toughest things I had been through in life, both professionally and personally, I was actually, it was very cathartic and it was very therapeutic and healing. And I realized that as I was going through these parts of my life, I was getting better at writing the chapters, and I was actually healing from getting the words out in front of me. And so at this point, this has become like a therapeutic journey of putting this book together, which, now I'm working with an editor to get this a little bit more organized and less, what I like to say, in Keith speak. Being from New England, I have a bit of a, bit of a way of talking, so it's a lot of work right now. We're in a pretty hefty developmental stage with the book, so it's looking good, and I'm hopeful to get it out this calendar year in the fall. I think it'll help people kind of let them know they're not alone, and that a lot of the things they go through and they feel are pretty normal, especially for a first responder.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love everything you said about the writing process and the power of that. And as an author, also, I totally get what you're saying, and I could never compare your experiences to mine by any means. But I definitely agree with you. Putting things down on paper is boy, oh boy, it changes your perspective, and a lot of times, and I don't know if you had this experience while you were writing, you thought you were writing one thing about one thing, maybe telling a story or relaying something. And when you read it back, you got this whole other depth of meaning from it than when you were initially writing it. Like you're almost just writing on almost autopilot, right? Like the words are just coming out, and then you go back after and you're like, whoa, right?
Yeah, no, it happened a few times at least. Yeah, no, I get exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're doing that. I think it's awesome. Do you have a title for the book yet, or is it top secret?
Right now it's kind of top secret. I've gone back and forth. I'm a big music person. Music's always been kind of my healing way to heal and check out. And so a lot of my chapters in the book are song titles that are relevant to the subject material. So I had originally picked The Struggle Within as the title. But we've been going back and forth because of what the overall theme is of the book. We may change that. And I was never 100% sold on the original title anyway. It was just one of those things that popped in my head one day.
Yeah. And you're gonna know it for sure when you hear it. When it hits you, it's just gonna be like a lightning bolt, I bet. I don't think it'll be one of those. Yeah, that works.
Yeah, I could live with that. No. Right. It'll be concrete for sure.
Awesome. Very exciting. And you also just finished filming a documentary. Is that correct?
Yeah, I actually worked with a couple of producers from Hollywood to make a low budget indie film documentary on PTSD for as it pertains to veterans and first responders. And we centered the story around my life. However, we interviewed 16 other people from different parts of my life who were different first responders and people from my childhood and whatnot to give some insight into like different perspectives. So it was a pretty incredible experience. Obviously, I'm not a movie guy. I'm a buckethead. I'm a firefighter, and it was cool. I got to have my youngest daughter in it with me, who was 3, and my wife, and there was a lot of powerful conversations. Some people, broke down, which was good. I think they needed to. And it was just amazing to hear different perspectives on stories, a lot of stories about my life, hearing it come from other people that we have never talked about that before. People I'm still in communication with, obviously, but we never talked about it. And to hear them in front of a camera talking about this stuff, and even for me to be in front of the camera and talking about this stuff, I was like, oh my God. And so it was an incredible experience, and we're editing it up now, and hopefully, again, being limited on what I can say, it's hopeful to get it like film festivals later this year.
That's amazing. It sounds so incredible. It sounds really compelling. I look forward to watching that. So I'm going to have to insist that you keep me updated on on the developments, because I would love to, make sure that we share that. And you mentioned, not being Hollywood. And I think actually that is so incredibly appealing to large portions of America right now. We're so over Hollywood. So we like real people and real stories and people that we can actually relate to and understand. So I think that's going to do really, really well. I think it's going to be really impactful for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
that was their whole point, was to get the small town America thing, the real people.
I
So
love that. Now,
yeah.
what is the best way for anyone to find you if they want to reach out to you, if they want to talk to you through your organization and all of that stuff?
So I'm on pretty much all the major platforms. I don't TikTok yet. I've been told I need to, but I'm not a big selfie video guy yet. But I'm on like LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. On Facebook, I run a bunch of different groups. The big one that is sort of my little my big problem moment is the PTSD awareness for first responders and veterans. And but you just look at my name and you'll see my ugly mug in the profile pic with a lid on his head. I'm pretty unmistakable. And then it's I work with another organization, First Responder Coaching, which is a life coaching business directed for first responders and their families. And then that's 1strrespondercoaching.org. People can look us up there as well, and find out what that's all about. So those are the best ways. And I get a lot of private messages these days, so it takes me a while to filter through them. But I always get back to people, even if it's just a thumbs up emoji.
Yep.
But that's usually the best way to get hold of me, is through the face space or LinkedIn.
That's awesome. Yeah, people, be patient with Keith, will you? Just give him a minute to answer you. He's a popular guy, and for good reason. You're doing some great work out there and really important stuff. I can't thank you enough for sharing all of this with us, with me, with our listeners, and I so look forward to watching your journey continue and see the great things that you are doing. And I think I'm going to throw something at you. I feel like podcasting should probably be in your future too, because why not add more stuff to someone else's plate?
It's funny. I've done quite a few of these at this point, these interviews, and everyone keeps telling me that, and I'm actually in the process of trying to make that a thing. I do videos. I have my own YouTube channel, and it's very low key right now, but it's I do videos, and everyone's like, "Oh, I just do a podcast," and I'm like, all right. I like talking to people. I mean,
yeah,
why
well,
not?
it shows. It actually comes across, and that's exactly why I said that. You've got this great, easygoing way about you, and I'm going to take a wild guess and say you're a no bullshit guy, and
Maybe.
maybe just a tiny bit, right? And people like that. I know I like it. I mean, I shouldn't speak for anybody else, but I'm gonna, because I don't care. I'll do it. Yeah, people like that. So
It's comforting, right? When someone's just brutally honest.
Absolutely. It really is. I personally love it, and I think it's refreshing. So yeah, get on a podcast and start telling people how it really is in the world.
It's probably going to happen at some point.
Outstanding. Good. Okay, guys, this has been the Elsa Kurt Show. That was Keith Hanks. I had to pause. I don't know why. I just had to pause. So I'm going to edit that part out, and I'm doing it all over again, Keith. Hey, guys, this is the Elsa Kurt Show. That was Keith Hanks. Go follow him on social media and get ready for his film coming out and his book coming out and his future podcast, probably, now that we threw that at him. So we'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care. Hey, family, if you're looking for the perfect gift for the reader in your life, why not check out one of my books? They're all available on Amazon and most major online book retailers, as well as elsakurt.com.